The thrilling thing about this house is that it's sort of like the hub of history of the United States of America. So it goes from the Mayflower to the Revolutionary War to the Civil War and the First World War. A lot of events happened, and people that were in the events and made history and made the books in those events are connected with the Crippens that lived in this house. You've got a house that can really inspire people.
The Crippen family that arrived in the early part of the 20th century exemplifies the time when Norwood Park became a part of the city of Chicago.
There's so much history here. There's people that have been in their homes their entire life. There's people that inherited homes from their parents that had farms here, and it just goes on and on and on.
Ever since I've been alive, since 1934, this house is being core to Norwood Park core to Chicago. That starts way back when my grandmother and grandfather began the Norwood Park Church here in the living room till the church got established. And then it goes on to just be a place of hospitality for everybody in the neighborhood.
This is the oldest house within the city limits of Chicago. For many years, it wasn't recognized as the oldest house. Clark Ford House, now as it's called, everybody knew that was the oldest house in Chicago because it had a long history. But this house was like an undiscovered gem that the local people knew, gee, it's a very old house over here, but we don't know how old this particular house is. And then they found out that the southern portion of the house was actually the oldest house within the city limits of Chicago.
The Norwood Park Historical Society had been formed in 1973 and had a growing collection of artifacts that were living in members' garages, basements, and attics. Meetings were being held across the community in the Roden Library, the basement of the Bank of Commerce and Industry, in the basement of the Methodist Church.
We had talked about at the Historical Society, wouldn't it be nice if we had a place that we could have a museum, a place that we could store our archives, a place that we could call a community meeting place, that we could come and have events and have programs. This came up. And if you looked and thought about it, you looked up the hill, and what a property, what a house, what history is in this house. What more could anybody ask to have a museum and a community meeting center and a place for archives and a museum than the old Crippen house? The neighbors to the north, they thought they would take their houses, knock them down, knock this down, and build some kind of a street, cul-de-sac type street, and put quite a few houses on the three properties.
So that would have been a really dramatic change to the community. We decided that we needed to step in, and how were we going to do that? What we chose to do was to try to buy it ourselves. So we spent about 2 years first negotiating with the Crippen family to purchase the house.
We have had various fundraisers and ways of donation, annual appeals and things like that to keep the funding alive. We had a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of people on board, a lot of good community volunteers that got on board to do the work and run the events and do the yard sales and dinners and races, house walks and house tours. You name it, we did it.
After nearly 35 years of ownership of the Noble Seymour Crippen House, I feel like we accomplished something monumental. We not only kept the house standing, literally the oldest house in the city of Chicago, we preserved it for the community. It's open to the public. Our goal is to collect, preserve, and share community history, and we want everyone to come and visit us.
I see the Crippen House as the heart of Norwood Park. It's a place to step back in time. It's a place to take your time with your family, spend the day, enjoy yourself. It's a gem in the neighborhood for many aspects, for community gatherings, for the museum, for all the events we have here.
These historic houses are important because they give us a connection to the people of the past, how the people of the past lived, what their hopes and dreams were, how we've gotten to where we are today. And it gives us a connection to something bigger than ourselves. And it gives us a pride in our community. And of course, the Historical Society to help preserve everything and is leading it forward without forgetting about its past roots.
We have to preserve the history of our neighborhood, especially people that live in the neighborhood, because there's so many people that come into the area and don't know what it's about, don't know the history.
This is bigger than all of us. The home has a big heart, and it's reaching out to everybody, and everybody is welcome to come and see the home and get the feel of the early history in Chicago. I picture that going on and on into the future and becoming a place of very great importance for the city of Chicago as well. I picture that. I do.